funny that it's Essendon player testing positive or something, isn't it?
Pull your finger out of your ass.
Jeez.
This is my first ever football jumper. My three votes, I should say. My three goats. My three votes for Charlie. Oh, top of the world, mate.
What a time to be alive.
I look a bit like Nickel Bellic from GTA 4, I feel, with this.
That could get dangerous. It is a grand old flag indeed. Melbourne are premiers for season 2021 in dominant fashion, ended up winning by 74 points in probably one of the better 74-point games you'll see. Mate, what a grand final. Anyway, for the majority of it.
I'm still shell-shocked that Melbourne have won a flag in my lifetime. It was one of those things you didn't think was ever going to happen. But yeah, it was a fantastic grand final. I mean, at halftime, it was anyone's game really. So it was quite a spectacular, well, especially first half to watch. And then I guess for mutual supporters, probably just in awe of how quickly Melbourne were able to pile on a score and really bury the Dogs. But yeah, awesome game, like you said.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I think first quarter was, Melbourne were pretty dominant, 4-1, and then the Bulldogs really wrestled it back. Or the Bulldogs, Bontempelli wrestled him back. He was playing a lone hand for him. He was incredible. He was probably winning the Norm Smith medal at halftime. And then they continued on with it. The Dogs, 5 to 10 minutes into the third quarter, and they got 19 points up. And I genuinely thought the Bulldogs were going to win. Did you think the same?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I thought they're going to win. Bont's going to have the Norm Smith medal.
Yep.
I thought, and look, I don't know why I said this before. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for the Dogs. I was quite happy. I thought it's going to be a good game, but I'm going to get the result that I was kind of looking for.
You were thinking of Libba as well.
I was thinking of Libba, famous guest that came on our show.
Pressure point zone.
Exactly right. So I was thinking of him, and I thought this would be great, but yeah, I guess I don't want to say Melbourne proved us wrong because it's not like we didn't expect them to come back, but geez, they really put on a show.
Yeah, it was incredible from the 10th or 12th minute mark of that third quarter. Melbourne just literally flicked a switch and were one of the most dominant performances I think I've ever seen. What was the score in the end? It was like 100-7 from halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I think from the 16th minute mark of the third quarter, it was about 100-1 or something like that.
Crazy.
It was nuts.
It was unbelievable. So I think they kicked 3 goals in the last 30 seconds of the third quarter. Petrarca went nuts. Clayton Oliver with that run out of the centre square to kick that goal. It was freakish and you just couldn't believe what you were watching, to be honest. I mean, they played pretty similar in the prelim, but to back it up in the grand final was outrageous.
They did play similar, but in saying that, we saw the Dogs have a similar performance again against Port in the prelim. So we sort of thought it would even itself out. And if, like we said, for the first half, it did.
Yep.
But yeah, geez, I just can't comprehend the fact that they dominated by so much in that last half of football and just really blew it away. And at halftime, like I mentioned before, you really didn't know who was going to win that game.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, as I said before, I think it was probably one of the better 74-point games you'll see. You didn't really lose interest in it. But even the last 5 minutes, you wanted to see the celebrations as well and all the tears that went along with the big drought breaker, and it was good to see. It was good to see.
No, it was. It was one of those ones where I guess it was boring in the sense that you knew the winner. The result was sort of already set in stone by halfway through the fourth quarter, just the way Melbourne was playing. But yeah, it was exciting to see how they were going to score more goals, what crazy things and other tricks they were going to pull out of the hat. I think that was what more kept a lot of people watching and interested from a mutual perspective. But I would have loved to have been a Melbourne supporter on the weekend.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We've got a couple on the show later, but we'll get to them when we do. But just before we get to the D's boys, what are your thoughts on the night grand final and in Perth as well?
I thought Perth put on a good spectacle. I was quite happy with the way that the game went. Obviously the light show that they've got there. It's a wonderful place to play footy, and I can't wait to eventually get over there. Hopefully we can do a pressure point road trip and catch a game up there. That'd be unreal. But I thought it was great. I am a traditionalist though, and I still want to go back to the day grand final, MCG. You can fit 100,000 people. The atmosphere there is unlike no other, and people that say that Optus Stadium is better, look, it might be more modern and it's got a light show, but is that what it really stands for? And a lot of people are big on the halftime entertainment, and that's why it looks better at night.
Yeah. We're
not the Super Bowl. The grand final has never been the Super Bowl. The halftime entertainment isn't what draws people to the game. It's the football. It's the sport. It's so I'm happy to have it during the day. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm too old school, but I like it during the day. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Like I like it during the day, but in the lead up to it, I was like, oh yeah, like this. I reckon they're going to put on a pretty good show here. It's just something we're going to have to get used to. You almost feel like it's going to eventually be a consistent thing. But I know after it still doesn't properly feel like a grand final, does it, when it's at night, and especially away from the MCG as well. You just don't get that whole like that tradition of it and the importance of the day, if that makes sense. So, absolutely, it looks great. It's a great spectacle at night, but no, I think during the day it's where it is. It's where the history is, and I know personally, if it was my team, I'd like to win it during the day at the MCG.
Absolutely. Well, coming from someone that's had both, it's had a bit of a taste of both. I can say that maybe it's because I was in person as well. If I had a chance to go to the Gabba at night, I could have a different opinion. Yeah. But I'm still all for having it at Melbourne, especially.
And it's a long wait as well. It's a big day.
It's a big day. It is. It really. And people are going to start celebrating early during the day, and it's going to be a long night if that's the case. But I mean, that can't be the sole reason to have it during the day. But it's definitely a factor for sure. Yeah. But it's also the fact that having it in Melbourne as well. I mean, Melbourne's, it's the home of football. It's where it started, and you get all the atmosphere here and the grand final parade. And I mean, you could do that technically in another state, but I just don't know if it would have the same effect. No. Obviously, WA love their footy, and I'm not taking that away from them, but I just think it's steeped in history and tradition here in Melbourne.
Especially when you watch, especially grand final week, when you're watching all the old grand finals on TV and everything, and you got the tradition of it being at the MCG in the afternoon and realising what's come before you and the importance of it and how special it is to win on that ground at that time. I think being away from Melbourne and at night takes it away a bit, I think. But yeah, I'd love for it to return back to the G at 2:30 next year, which would be awesome.
That's hopefully what's going to happen. But just quickly as well on a similar topic, there's been talks of potentially. Well, I think people more just are raising the question anyway. But what are your thoughts on potentially having the grand final in a different state every year?
Yeah, I wasn't against it. As I said, leading up to the game, I wasn't against it. But I don't know, something about this. I think because it was Melbourne, and it's like they had to win a premiership at the MCG because it's their home ground. It's Melbourne, Yeah. I don't know. For me, after the game and the celebrations, it's like, I think it has to stay in Melbourne. That's footy.
100%. And I think the capacity as well has to be taken into factor. 100,000 people, you don't get that anywhere else in Australia.
And you get your absolute diehard fans there as well.
You do. You cram as many people in as you can. You're obviously going to get your corporates that take up a lot of seats as well. But you get as many diehard fans in as you can. And then if you can't get into the G, there's so much more on offer just around the city in general, Melbourne, so much grand final experience that you can lap up, which I feel other states probably lack. So, I'm all for keeping it at the G, 2:30 start time.
Red footy is the best footy, as they say.
Exactly right. Red footy is the best footy, so absolutely.
Are they going to create a dynasty?
Ooh, I like that. It's clever. I can't imagine you've made that one up yourself, but
I have.
Well, so I've spoken to some sources, and some reckon they'll win 4 in a row, which will be interesting. So that'll be look, I think they've got every chance to, for sure. I mean, I was saying before this, if everything goes right for the Ds in terms of injuries and players staying, and I mean, that's the problem when you're good, is you're going to start to lose some of those younger guys because they're going to seek more opportunity. But they've only just won a flag, so they're going to still have a couple of years before that becomes an issue. Yeah. So if they can have a couple of clear years of injury like they had this year, and for the most part they had a pretty good run, absolutely, I can't see why they wouldn't create them a bit of a dynasty.
They're still so young. Right.
It's scary.
Petrarca's only 25.
I look at it and he's my age, and I think, what have
crazy.
I done?
And Clayton Oliver's younger, and then I think Max Gawn's the only one that's getting a bit on now. He's turning 30, and Jack Viney's a bit older as well. But apart from that, they're well poised to create a dynasty, as some people are saying.
Absolutely. And on the other hand, though, I mean, unless the Bulldogs fall off a cliff, they're going to be another dangerous team next year. And there's so many other sides that are coming up as well, that the competition it's scary to see how good sides could be, because people can pop out of the 8 or from the bottom 8, and just come in and have a massive influence like the Ds did. So it's scary, but I can't see any reason why Melbourne couldn't continue their good form and win it again. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I think these boys might be able to might have an opinion on it. We've got the Attention to Detail boys, who we had on earlier in the year. Passionate Melbourne supporters, as passionate as they come. They host a great podcast. They're doing great things for all your Melbourne content. And we caught up with them a bit earlier to get their thoughts on the drought-breaking flag and how they felt after the game. So enjoy the chat that we had with the boys.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, everybody, we're joined by the Attention to Detail podcast yet again. Simo and Tim, congratulations firstly on the big win on Saturday night. How are you both feeling?
Yeah, no, feeling pretty good, Quinn. Marcus, thanks so much for having us. Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I think that's probably got to be the biggest word at the moment. Obviously, with the environment that we're in, it's yeah, you're just trying to find any excuse to trying to get outside and wear the colours. And I think I've as much as Saturday night was good. Like personally, my experience was watching it sort of on my own and had my old man and my brother on Zoom not throughout the game, but more so at the end. But it's been nice just having those interactions. I think Sunday morning went for a big walk, and yeah, just countless toots of people. Like I'm just wearing my jersey and walking down the street with daughter Harper, and just getting toots of people yelling out the side and walking through the parks. And then I had one lady who pulled up when I was crossing the road, and she just had the grand old flag absolutely pumping out of her car and just fist pumping as I'm walking across the road. And it's it's pretty unreal. I reckon I'm only on my third watch of the replay in total, but it's just you soak it all in, taking in all the media and just trying to embrace every second of it. It's obviously unique circumstances what we're in. Well, Quinn, obviously with Tigers winning last year in lockdown as well too. But it's very exciting, and yeah, you just find any excuse to, as I said, have a conversation or just wear the colours and be proud.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's such a bizarre feeling. It's an amazing feeling, but yeah, not being able to be there was difficult. But I think just if you ask the question, it's you got to win it whatever way you please. It's just amazing to see where we've come from. Especially from what we've gone through to what we've done now. It just makes it feel just that much better. A few times when I was a bit younger, I used to say to Dad, like, "Oh, I'm ready to give up on him." But he's like, "No, keep going." And that moment, or the moments that have been building, it just made it so emotional. And I think rewatching it on Sunday morning made me feel that a little bit more, just because I was just buzzing on Saturday night, just unfold, or just seeing that third quarter unfold, like. You've obviously seen the best 17 minutes of football in the club's history, let alone probably in many clubs' history. I mean, to kick 100 points to 7 from, I think, the 7-minute mark or 8-minute mark of the third quarter was just, you were just in awe of what this playing group was doing. And, I think we'll be celebrating for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the best thing about the replay is you start to appreciate the little things that you may have missed on the night because you're just so buzzed, like you said, Simo, and you're just sort of enjoying it, but you actually get to go back and pinpoint the finer details. So yeah, absolutely stoked for you guys. And I am shattered as well. Like we were talking about before, Tim, it's a bit bittersweet that it wasn't in Melbourne and you couldn't exactly celebrate the way you probably would have liked to, but hopefully a bit further down the line, you guys will both get that opportunity. I'll start with you, Tim, with the next question, but how did you prepare for the game during the day? I mean, it's a big build-up. It was a long 2 weeks wait, I guess, as well, and which would have changed things a little bit. But were you nervous in the morning? Was it more excitement? What was the feeling like heading into the day?
Yeah, look, I've probably been pretty calm in between the prelim and grand final. Like, you have the conversations, but probably personally I wasn't feeling too bad. And I knew I'd be probably a wreck just before the game, and I was, but heading into the day, like I caught up with Mum and Dad, who hadn't seen for quite a while. But normally, obviously, like with footy and the D's, it's a big family thing for me, and it was great just to have that kind of connection, just and have that chat with Dad and Mum. And my brother would normally be in here, but he's a bit further out. He's in Hawthorn, so I didn't get to see him there. But yeah, just sort of hung out with him for the morning, and then just sort of kept myself busy throughout the day. I don't think I turned on the TV until probably about 6. I did watch a bit of the captain's run in the morning, and you sort of start to get the analysis and thinking, shit, I don't think I can stand here and watch all the analysis in the lead up. Like I think that made it worse because obviously they're playing out all the scenarios, they're pinpointing everything. I really just tried to keep myself busy up until about 6, and then I just found myself like pacing, just doing things and getting ready for that first bounce, because you feel those butterflies in your stomach. But Because in all, like Dad says, he was a nervous wreck for the last 2 weeks, whereas I've been pretty calm and collected. But I think also, had you been going to the game, and there would have been a different sense probably of excitement and nervousness because you're surrounded by it. But I think, given that I was sort of mainly doing it on my own, I was reasonably composed up until about an hour beforehand.
Yeah. What about you, Simo? How do you feel?
It was a nervous wait. It's like 2 weeks to wait for a grand final was just, it was crazy. It was crazy, crazy, crazy. You just think about all the outcomes that potentially the what ifs. But look, I tell you what, the wait was definitely worth it. We even had a wait after the qualifying final as well. So, we're used to a wait, but I tell you what, it didn't make things easy across the final series. There's a lot of speculation around, playing one game in 28 days, like, how much would that impact? But obviously, impacted us a little bit different considering we're in Perth for quite a substantial amount of time as opposed to the doggies. So I sort of had that in mind. And I think even doing the podcast with Tim sort of just stayed positive with everything going on, and even chatting to people, especially Melbourne people. It was quite easy to remain calm to a degree. It was really interesting hearing from outsiders' perspectives because they were just trying to stir me up a little bit just in the way. And just like I said, just all the what ifs. But definitely worth it.
I think the spotlight though as well. Like I think having that 2-week break obviously is not ideal, but I think just with the media and the spotlight and just being able to actually reflect on the fact that we've made it to a grand final. There's a lot of positive media out there, and it was just nice to kind of have that extra time to soak it in as well too. I think not having been that far for quite a number of years, I was going through, like, I'm in amongst all of this, so I'm bought a house, like, moving house, and I'm starting to pack, and I found in one of the cupboards the 2018 paper. I'd saved the 2018 paper after we won the semi-final against Hawthorn, and I just remember, only those amounts, though, at those times, your team's getting a lot of attention, a lot of coverage. And again, now when there's only 2 teams left in it, you do get a lot of coverage. So it's been good to sort of really read in depth about everyone's opinions. And as Simo said, speak to a lot of people about it. But I think it was nice just to embrace it as well too, without sort of thinking too far ahead into the result. It was nice just to, for once, for Melbourne, as a kid growing up, where you got, not many kids at Auskick are wearing Melbourne jumpers and being a bit of a laughing stock. It was nice to sort of just be in the spotlight, prior to the result.
Yeah, love it. What about your genuine predictions before the game? Obviously, you turned out to be a 74-point win. And I mean, you probably would have expected that after your prelim against Geelong, but did you really think it was going to be as dominant as that? I'll start with you, Simo.
My predictions was asked by about 15. I thought it would be pretty close. Obviously, in the first half, you saw that, it was a tale of 2 quarters, really. More so in the second quarter, we didn't really make the most of our opportunities. I mean, Max Gorn got stinged on 1 goal, but it was 15 points. I thought we'd just, be pretty close at 3/4 time. Then we'll, find a way to get the job done. But tell you what, mate, to do what we did, like I said before, it was just, I was just in awe.
Yeah, I think predictions were a little bit hard. I think the 2 contests that we played them, obviously looking at round, I forget what it was. Was it round 11? What was the first? First time we played them during the year, we beat them obviously very comprehensively. And it was actually interesting last week when we had like a bit of a live segment for the first time, and this bloke had gone back and watched our last game, round 17, I think it was, that we played him, and we lost. And it was just a few things that he pointed out about why I was feeling confident going into the grand final. And I think it was only then that you sort of thought, like, Dogs had been the benchmark of the competition for the majority of the season. And I'd openly thought that. I thought Melbourne were right up there with them, but I think at the times, the Dogs did look probably just by an inch slightly the better team, even though we'd remained on top for longer. But some of the things that he was pointing out, and just some of the subtle adjustments that I know that could have been made and were made at a later point in that game, but it wasn't obviously enough to get us over the line. it sort of makes you think, yeah, okay, they've got a lot of top end talent, but I just think at the end of the day, I was feeling confident, but I'd sort of resigned to both results as well. So I was like, you know what, if we lose, it's the Dogs, they're the best team in the competition. If it was Port Adelaide, I would have been a little bit disappointed, I think, just given their, their progress throughout the year. But I think, yeah, heading in, honestly, it was really hard to think. Like, you want to be confident, you want to be behind your team, and I certainly was, but it was hard to predict it. I think just hard to let it all play out in your head. But I think at the end, I was thinking about all 22 players of the Ds and thinking that even our bottom four, our bottom six really, I thought probably would be better in terms of their roles and just the way that the team's taken on this selfless mentality, and everybody really perfects their role and executes it, really well. And that's obviously been a huge pillar in our success this year. So that I was really confident on. But no, it was, hard to predict, I think. Personally, I don't know.
Speaking of confidence, and I mean, I've been in a similar situation, so I kind of know how I felt in this situation. But going into halftime, we saw the Dogs put on a little bit of a show. Bontempelli sort of turned it around, and you start to think, geez, they're looking on here, the Doggies. What was the feeling like for you boys heading into halftime? And after seeing that, I mean, obviously, you don't think it's over, but what was the thought going into halftime? Would you think, geez, it's going to be a battle for the rest of the game, or what was the process going through that? I'll start with you, Simo.
I've honestly, I had full faith in them. Yes, I was really nervous, but I knew with what we've got, and to be honest, we've done it. We actually come from behind it a few games this year. And I knew from the start too, we looked on. It was just a matter of, not making the most of the opportunities in the second quarter. It was just all about making the adjustment, and I think just really trying to go back to what we were doing in the first quarter, and being the pressure side we were, and making it really hard for the Doggies to play, I think was the biggest thing. So you probably noticed in the first half of the third quarter, we were grinding, just weren't really getting reward on the scoreboard. But then, as the tides change, you get some unbelievable performances. And I suppose, that mindset changed. I mean, I will be honest, when we were 19 down, I didn't know where the next gear was going to come from. We were playing pretty boring football, down the line stuff. It was, it was starting to, I was really worried, like a lot of Melbourne supporters were. And I think a few people probably were like, oh, gee, are we going to actually get back into this game? And then I think just that sure grit and grind, got the better of the Doggies, and we really pounced on those opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know. I was probably similar. I was pretty calm at halftime, and I had a quick chat with Dad and brother, and Dad had already turned it off. He's pretty terrible like that. We might have mentioned, but he's still scarred from the 87 prelim, and finds it really hard. I think it affects his health when he watches the D's in a tight situation. So I was pretty good. I think that knowing that the Doggies, and spoke about how good they've been all season, but they're always going to respond, and they got on top of the contested ball in that second quarter, and that's how they were able to sort of capitalise on clearances and get the ball forward. And a lot of their goals that they scored in that second quarter were sort of ground balls, which against Brisbane, that was one of the things that our defence, isn't quite as well suited for. And when it gets a bit chaotic, it can be a little bit more unpredictable. So I knew that, I think going into halftime, and I think we were, I don't know, -8 or -10 contested possessions in that second quarter. We've done it multiple times before, and I know that Goody has been very much about, let's get back to our brand and being able to reset at halftime or at quarter time, whenever it is at the break. But I think knowing that the players have been able to do that, as Simo mentioned before, really, really effectively throughout the season at countless in countless positions, depending on what the margin's been, that they were able to get back to their best and win contested ball and just win the hunt. And yeah, it did take 10, 12 minutes into the third quarter for them to be able to bounce back. But no, I think the feeling at halftime, whilst the D's would have probably been a little bit hot, like there was a Stephen May mark that certainly should have been paid. Talk about, umpiring decisions. I thought that was a bit stiff and nearly cost us a goal. I think it was at Hunter that maybe missed or hit the post, or English. I can't remember who it was at that stage. But yeah, you could see a few of the players were just a little bit hot going in. And I think Track said that. He said the first few minutes are all a little bit, on edge a little, and they just took a bit of a calming influence, which we know Goody's been so good at over his past 5 years. He's one of those blokes that whether you're up by 70 or down by 30, his demeanour stays the same, and that message has been really consistent all year about reset, go back out there, just play our brand and be us, and they did that. So it wasn't too worried at halftime. As I said, halfway through the third, there's some questions starting to creep in, but the rest is history.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned the track, and obviously he played one of the all-time great grand finals. There's even been talk about it being better than Dusty's over the last few years. I mean, how much love do you have for this bloke? He's a very lovable character, and geez, his footy is pretty good too. So, Simo, how much do you love the track?
I think the love for him's definitely grown. And I've always loved him as a player. Wouldn't say he's been my favourite player, but I love all these players. But dude, just to watch what he was doing was just second to none. And I think this game goes up there with the Dusty type game. But I feel like Petrarca's his own animal, his own beast. Like, he can get you in the air, he can get you at ground level. He's just a pure beast. That's pretty much what he is. And I think you've got to see this multiple times. I think in the future where he becomes this just animal in finals footy. I mean, you see it not only from him but from Viney as well. You think he's been pretty down for most of the year, and he comes out in the finals and just goes whack. So I think we're starting to really see what the track can do. What's he now, 25? So we've got a lot of time to love this bloke.
He's certainly just building upon what he's already achieved so far. But I think the thing that's impressed me the most with him, and probably not so much just in that game, but just over the last couple of years, is just his maturity and leadership that's really come out. And I think it came out after watching the round 23 game against Geelong, and he was a bit emotional at the end, and it was just amazing to hear him sort of speak about like what the club means to him. And I know that obviously he signed that long-term deal and was never going anywhere, but I think one of the biggest things he's sort of talked about in the media has been, his love for his teammates. And he's always been known as like that chirpy bloke. You ask players who's the most annoying player, Christian Petrarca is almost within a split second the answer. One of those guys has just got way too much energy. But, a couple of years ago, he really learned to channel that energy into his off-season training. And I think Darren Burgess has been a huge influence on him in terms of being able to turn him into this endurance beast. And now we're just seeing him, the fittest version of himself is out there, and he's just being able to rip games apart. The midfield's obviously been a double-edged sword between him and Clary. You go to one, the other explodes, and vice versa. And the same thing happened again there. Like, Clary had a fantastic game, but it's a different sort of game to what Track did, and his ability now to finish goals, where goal kicking at times has been a bit of his Achilles heel. I mean, that dribble kick in the third quarter is up there with one of the all-time great goals in Melbourne history, and obviously it sparked a flurry of goals after that. But I honestly think, with Max looking at, I don't know, he's 30 or turning 30 and thinking about future captains, I think Track is somebody that could easily be our captain. I just love the way that he's developed as a young player and a young man who's gone from being this cheeky, talented kid to now a bona fide absolute star. And probably on a little personal note, I haven't been a massive fan of the Dusty comparisons, only because I just love, as Simo mentioned before, and I know me and Simo chatted about this last night, I just think that he's his own player, and he's certainly just carving out his career for himself. And I think it's a little bit unfair to be labelled against somebody so decorated as Dusty, but he's just going to continue to grow, and a very worthy Norm Smith medalist. I think if Bailey had slotted maybe one more, I reckon he would have been giving him a run. But we know that the media thinks media thinks the Track. They all love him. So very excited to see what he brings us. But no, it's a huge game.
Let's hope he's the DJ at the grand final after party when all Melbourne supporters get to the G. Are they going to be pretty sick?
I reckon I saw him on the decks. He's got some good tunes going on the track. He's all right. He's not too bad on the on the old decks. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, Petrarca is actually quite scary to think about that he's only 25, and then, you know, people hit their prime around this age. And if he's just, you know, only starting to hit it now, it's scary what it's going to do in the next couple of years. But boys, thank you very much for jumping on once again. You know, I know there's plenty more you guys could probably speak about for this game. It's obviously a massive occasion. First flag in 57 years, first one in your lifetime. So it's been huge, but we'll let you talk about that on your own grand final. So when that comes up, we won't hog all the attention from you boys. But thanks again for joining us. Look forward to having you on the podcast soon, and good luck for next year. I'm sure the D's will be flying again.
Thanks, Ethan, mate.
Thanks, boys. No, I really appreciate it. And yeah, Marcus, hopefully for your sake, Blues isn't too far away. Hopefully even heading in the right direction.
Yeah, well, mate, this gives me a lot of hope. That's why I was going for Melbourne. So we've had similar paths.
Unreal. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks,
appreciate
boys.
it.
See you, boys.
Go D's.
Geez, how good was that? A lot of passion.
Absolutely. I mean, look, and rightfully so. 57 years without a flag, and these boys, you know, I don't want to say they're old, but they're not like 12 either, where they haven't had that much heartache. They've definitely gone through a lot of heartbreak, and it was good to see. And they're good friends of the show as well. So, you know, always happy to see friends pretty happy after a win like that.
Yeah. Make sure you follow them at Attention to Detail on Instagram, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially Melbourne fans out there. It's one of the better Melbourne content out there. All right, well that's the grand final done. Let's move on to the silly season, and it all happens and moves on very quickly. We've got the trade period starting next Monday. There's already been some silly rumours going around, and probably not the big names that we're used to in trade period, but there's certainly some names floating around.
100% there is. I mean, Adam Chera going to Carlton's a big one that I'm sure you've got a keen eye on. But look, like we said, the trade period hasn't officially started yet, so all the rumours and all the silly talk is up and about. Like, I've been listening to trade radio the last couple of days pretty heavily, and some of the stuff you hear on there is, it's pretty ridiculous. Yeah. But I like it. I think it keeps that football fire burning a little bit longer. I mean, the season's officially over, but it never really ends with stuff like this, which I love. And it's exciting to see what your team might be doing in the off season, and it can really build into a good 2022. And for mine, so I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in this trade period. Is there any, apart from Adam Chera, I know he's the big one, are there any names that are potentially heading to Carlton, or someone that you want Carlton to look at that could really help the club next year?
Well, Carlton's linked to every player every year. So, but Adam Chera looks, I think we'll get the job done there. And then George Hewitt looks like he's already signed as a free agent. So he's a great pickup. So we're just bolstering the midfield. And then we've got Jared Brander from West Coast, who I don't know a lot about, but we're heavily linked to him as well. So, if we manage to get all three of them in, I think that'd be pretty good business if we're not giving up too much. That's the thing with Carlton. We give up way too much sometimes and pay them way too much. If we can get them at a good price and not pay a ridiculous amount on their salary, I think I'll be pretty happy with it. But it looks like we might be losing Sam Petreski-Seaton, which is a bit of a blow. I mean, he hasn't lived up to his expectations, but at the same time, he's been played out of position. So I feel like with Vossi now on board, I think if he plays him in the midfield or up forward, I think we'll get the best out of him if he stays, but it doesn't look likely. Looks like he's already requested to go home. You
feel like that conversation would probably be taking place, whether it hasn't already or in the next day or so, with Vossi and
there was talk today that
Petreski-Seaton
that he might stay now that Vossi's on board.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, surely Voss has reached out and said, look, here's my plan for you for next year. Before you leave, this is what we're going to offer you. If you like it, stay. If you don't, continue down the path you're going to head. So I think that's probably the route that Vossi should take anyway. Try and keep these players. I mean, he's not your best midfielder for sure, but he's a number 6 pick. Yeah, he's number six pick for a reason. So
he's got talent. Like he's played some good games.
His best footy is good, really good. But I think the gap at the moment between his best and his worst is a bad gap.
At the same time, he was played in a back pocket, and that's not where he plays his best footy.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think if Vossi can reassure him that he will play midfield time and get him comfortable and give him some continuity in what position he'll play, it might keep him there. So it's an interesting one.
Absolutely. I'd rather him stay than leave as long as we play him in the right position. Otherwise, then he can go. That's pretty much they're the big names I can think of at the moment. There's no really not much else really happening. I mean, there was a bit of silly talk around Canelio, but I don't think that's gonna that's going to eventuate. But
No, I mean, I wouldn't blame Canelio for looking for other options with the way that he's probably been dealt with at the Giants in the last 2 seasons. But I think he's a pretty loyal fellow by the sounds of things and by the looks of what I've seen. And I reckon he'll probably stay on board. I'd be surprised if he left. I guess the only other one that's, pricked my interest a little bit is that Robbie Tarrant is apparently coming to Richmond, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. He's 33 next year, I think he's turning. So, I mean, obviously he's going to be replacing Dave Asprey pretty much, and we get him for nothing, essentially. So not too upset about that, but I am cautious. We have got some good picks this year, Richmond, and I'm worried that we'll go down the path of what Geelong did last year and try and bring in some older, more developed players just to win the flag next year.
Yeah.
I'd rather see us somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Get someone in that will help us, but also look to the future, because Geelong for the last 10, 15 years have been up the top, and that's because they've been able to bolster their stocks all the time, and that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on, and obviously every club's going to have similar or different positions that they're in, but it's something to keep the eye on anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, that all kicks off next Monday, the trade period. We all love it, especially the teams that didn't make finals and are pushing for finals next year. It's always an exciting time to get some new players in and sells hope for next year as well, which is Christmas time for every Carlton supporter, really. So it's always fun. But that's pretty much it, and that's pretty much our season done here at the podcast as well. We'll obviously keep doing content with trade period and the draft time, and when we have our special guests come on as well. But in terms of match reviews and things like that, that's us done, as a lot of people are wrapping up their weekly content. So it's been a great year, and we'll be back next week as well to talk about trade period too.
Absolutely, we will. So it's not done just yet for the Pressure Point boys, but again, I guess in terms of regular season content, that's a wrap.
But it's been great, and as I say every week, make sure you leave us a review, subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be back next week to talk about all the big trades and wrap them all up. So we'll chat then.